So, AEW Dynamite is back tonight. Feels like forever because Collision was on the fucking Thursday. But yeah, not the full card announcements again. I've got things to do. I'm not waiting until fucking 11 o'clock at night. I'll be asleep. But yeah, so let's get into it. The things we've got confirmed and what else we'll think will be on the show. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is we'll hear from Darby Allin after winning the belt last week. Obviously, that's the main takeaway. This is huge. Obviously, Darby winning the belt. Obviously, I think this will open the show. You know, I think we'll get a lot of time with, a good few minutes with Darby thanking the fans, you know, giving that emotional speech that we expect, but then obviously to be interrupted by MJF himself. I think MJF's obviously going to deny, be pissed at Darby, demand a rematch. I think Darby will give him the rematch, but obviously not tonight. Darby's already got a match confirmed tonight. But, yeah, I feel like that's the way to go. I'm looking forward to seeing that speech. I really do. I think that I always enjoy, after Hangman won it all in, I always enjoy those babyface speeches. And, yeah, AEW's got a problem with babyfaces as champs. They always have. So, I wonder how they're going to present this. But I don't know. Obviously, the call is with Ciampa too. You got Ciampa involved. You know, obviously, that's the match later. So, I don't know if he's going to be involved in the promo, but he might have a backstage promo after the promo. I don't know. But I think Max will have to make an appearance regardless. I think that's the obvious call. Even if they build that for next week or, for Double or Nothing. I don't know. But I think that's what we've got to build towards, and that makes sense. But the promo from Darby, I'm looking forward to this a lot. This is definitely the main draw, but I like Darby. It's still a bit weird how they presented him as champ, but you got to let it cook. But the moment alone, it was phenomenal. It's an all-time Dynamite moment, so I'm looking forward to see how he talks about it after it. After that, though, like we previously mentioned, might as well get into it now. We have Darby Allin's first title defense as AEW Men's World Champion against Tomasso Ciampa. I love that. I love that as an idea. I think that's great to reward a guy like Ciampa. Obviously, I think he's been on a tear. It's a great first thing for Darby. The match is going to cook. That match will be great. You know, how Ciampa's so offense heavy and Darby sells his fucking ass off. That works for me. I think that's going to be really fun. I want to see how Darby's resilience presented against the Ciampa. I want to see how Ciampa looks in the main title scene. The obvious thing is Max going to be involved in the match? Possibly. I think he could. I don't know if he'll cost Darby the match or what. He's a petty little bastard. I want to see how Ciampa reacts to that. I'd like to see if that happens, Ciampa and Max have a little thing. That could be really cool, actually. That could be a really fun little angle to go about that. Because Ciampa seems like the guy who wouldn't take that lightly. But either way, I think as an actual match, Darby and Ciampa, I hope we get minutes with this. I hope it isn't ironically enough, like Darby winning the belt against Max, where we get promised a match and then it gets interrupted because of, well, not interrupted, but, cut short, because, to give the moment. I hope we actually get a match here between Darby and Ciampa. I think that works. But I think Max will have involvement in some way. I just don't know what, but I think it's definitely going to build to that. But as a match, obviously, I think Darby retains. I think it'd be silly not to. But Ciampa being in this is a really good call. The match, I'm looking forward to the match. I think that'll be a really good match. But yeah, I don't know if it probably will main event, but I wouldn't be surprised if that follows the promo because he's there. But I feel like that on main event, it makes the most sense. Obviously, leave it on the cliffhanger with probably Max. But, I don't know. But I think as an actual match, I'm looking forward to this a lot, definitely. So, after this, though, we actually get a match that I forgot to talk about this last week. So, after Ospreay's match last week, he had an interruption with Mark Davis. Mark Davis attacked him, obviously, and, former Aussie Open United Empire. And yet their match will be having tonight, it's Ospreay versus Davis. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing with Ospreay going forward. I don't know if they're going to have Ospreay, against the Don Callis family for too much longer again. We've already done that. Maybe Kenny teams up with him. Kenny and Ospreay go for the tag team again, because I enjoy that. And obviously both, anyone with the fucking against the Don Callis family has to be Omega's friend. Ospreay already is. So it works. I like that. I think that's a definitely way they might tease it, but I think definitely Davis is a great call. I like Davis. I like Davis a lot. I think he's been excellent as of late. I think he's done nothing but good things recently. And he's deserving these good Dynamite matches, good Collision matches. Does TV every week for Davis, and I'm not against it at all. He works for this. Ospreay and him have got history. They've got to have great chemistry. This match will fuck. Ospreay, it's more interesting to see how Ospreay's style continuously developing. He's become a bit more technical, a bit less aerial focused, less fast, but, still got that in there. Obviously, that's who Ospreay is. But it's interesting to see how it's developing, slowly morphing, but I'm enjoying that. I think the match will be good. The interest is obviously, where do we go further? Do we eventually, get Don Callis and the Callis family versus Ospreay and whoever? Again, because Ospreay had a lack of friends. Obviously, you still got the United Empire thing looming. You could have the United Empire helped Ospreay versus the Don Callis family. That could be really good. If they had the balls, they never will because United Empire, obviously, but if they had the balls and somehow I'm able to work it, give me Andrade versus Ospreay, that could be really fucking cool. I really like that. But either way, as an actual match, I think this will be good. I think that's obvious. But I think as an actual starting point for what Ospreay does next post-Moxley, this could be good. So, and obviously, Mark Davis minutes, that's good too. But yeah, fan of this. Good match, good call. Solid. So the last thing we're going to talk about that's confirmed is our women's match between Hikaru Shida and Mina Shirakawa, following Miss Shirakawa telling me Shida straight to her face that I don't trust you in warning off Statlander. So this is obviously the payoff from that, continuing Shida's whole seedy bullshit that she's got going on. Does Statlander make an appearance? Maybe. I think Harley might make an appearance here too. That makes sense. But either way, the match will be good. I like Shida. I think Mina's great. I think you got to give Mina more minutes alone. I love Mina. So, that's good. That works for me. Yeah, I think this match will be good. Again, I couldn't really say too much. The thing is, I like Shida, but I've not seen too much of Shida, admittedly. Mina I've seen a good bit more of, and I like Mina a lot. I think she's really good in ring. So, I'm always looking forward to a Mina match. I think they've got to build this more. I think the slow build with Mina and Shida's been good. I think that's definitely a way to go with Stat and as well. Well, slow build with Stat and Shida, sorry. So, I hope they incorporate Statlander in this, obviously, but I hope there's something more going forward. I hope they don't rush it and just go, oh my god, Statlander's turned heel. I don't really care. But, I don't know. They've got to play this slowly with Shida. I think you've still got to play this slowly. I think you've got to have Shida win here. I think Shida has to win. But I think going forward, I want to see how it affects Statlander. I want this to have a payoff with Stat. I do. I feel like Statlander being involved in this sort of confrontation, whatever happens, will be interesting. So I feel like that you got to build into, and obviously Harley, stuff like that, stuff going on there. It makes sense to kind of merge all this together with the Tony stuff, and obviously with Harley Stat, the Shida thing. It makes sense. It makes sense to kind of rope all this in together. It gives kind of a nice little circle. I mean, they're all in the same sort of boat, so kind of makes sense. But match will be good. I think this will be a good match on paper, definitely. And honestly, yeah, I mean, this works. This works for me. It's a good little avenue to go, and hopefully it's not the last. I hope it does. I hope it leaves some. I hope it leaves energy for the future, if that makes sense. I hope that's the goal here, to kind of build this going forward, because they should. It's definitely a good call to do. So, that's all the things we've got confirmed. Do I think, obviously, Max is the big thing that, is going to be looming. I think we should get something with Kenny here. I feel like Kenny, regardless if it's with Ospreay or not, I think we've got to kind of get Kenny in there. It's only a matter of time before we get Owen news. I feel like we need to get the Owen news kind of sooner rather than later. Okada and Takeshita feels like something we should see. Again, Takeshita being turned on by the family makes the most sense. We haven't seen that yet. I think we'll tease some shit on Collision. Obviously, Hook and the Ops with Shibata. What the hell's he doing in them? Obviously, with Anthony Bowens. That'll probably get teased. Shit like that. I think the Okada and Takeshita thing's the one I'd like to see the most. Obviously, that's a match confirmed for Double or Nothing. There's an obvious turn happen with Takeshita. There's some shit going on. I don't know if they're going to save that for Double or Nothing, but it makes sense to kind of, at least acknowledge some shit. Give Don a promo or something, obviously, after the Ospreay match, maybe. But Kenny involved, too. Kenny makes sense. But, I'd like to see Kenny. The Bucks, I think that we should get something with the Bucks. I think the Bucks had a great match against the Rascals. That was really good. So I feel like, obviously, you've got to get them and FTR going, obviously, with Cope. So that's definitely an avenue, but I don't know if they're going to stick that to Collision. There's a lot of gaps. I mean, again, I think Swerve's, I don't know where the hell Swerve's at. Feels very different. I feel like, again, you could have Swerve interrupt Darby at the end of the night. That could be definitely interesting. You can kind of build that going forward. But there's a lot of people. I think Moxley, you're going to get a Moxley match. I don't know who against, but you're going to get a Moxley match. I think that's very, shock at all. I'd like to get an update about Christian, actually. Copeland put it over that, he might be injured. So I'd like to get an update on Collision if that involves the Bucks or not. But, yeah, I feel like, again, the other matches, I feel like the match, obviously, Moxley getting a match makes sense. I'd like to get some update with what's going on with Andrade in the world title scene. Definitely put him in there more. But also, Jack Perry match, something like that, you know what I mean? So with Ricochet, stuff like that, you know what I mean? That's what I'd like. But definitely, I think the way to go is think the big things I want in this Dynamite definitely is Kenny involvement in some way. I'd like to see the Bucks. Obviously Tekla, but I think Tekla's been more like on a collision type of deal now. And obviously I'd like to see Takeshita, Kenny. I'd like to see Tekla, but I doubt it. And honestly, I just want this one. I feel like the last Dynamite, even after, even with Darby winning the belt, is very much establishing what we're doing, but we don't have that much of a clue yet. I feel like there's a lot that we should be able to do. So I feel like FTR's a big one. I feel like there's a lot you can do, but we need to start building towards not just the pay-per-view, but the next few months and weeks. So let's set I know the pleads in some seeds were planted, but let's kind of continue that. But yeah, the big ones for me, Kenny, and probably something to do with the tags. But yeah, that'll interest me a lot. Moxley match, shock, definitely going to happen. So yeah, that's my predictions for Dynamite tonight. What do you think of the show? What do you think's going to happen? How excited are you for Darby versus Ciampa? And what do you think's going to happen with Max? Do you think it's going to be Max who's going to cost Darby the match tonight? Or do you think it's going to have a longer payoff? Whatever. What do you think's going to happen? Because I don't think Max costing Darby the belt tonight's out of the question. Would be fucking nuts if he did. That would be cool. I'd kind of fuck with that.